Are you tired of setting big goals at the start of every year only to give up a few weeks later? So what if I told you the reason your goals aren't working isn't because you lack motivation or discipline, but because you're focusing on the wrong thing? It's not about the goal, it's about the system behind it. That's right. If you want to see real change in 2025, you need to stop obsessing over the outcome and start building daily habits that make success inevitable. Hi, this is Emily here. Today, let me share 19 lessons I learned from Atomic Habits that completely transformed how I think about goals and how they can help you build a better system for the life you want next year. It's been a long time since I first read this book, but I still like to pull it out around the end of the year or the start of a new one. Trust me, if you want to have a brand new 2025, please do read this book or watch my video. So let's dive in. Lesson 1. Identity shapes habits. Here's the kicker. It's not your goals that hold you back. It's your identity. Well, when I moved to Canada, I gained over 10 pounds in just 6 months. And I thought, oh, okay. Anyway, I have an easily gaining weight body type. I got it from my mom, so what can I do? I love carbs, cheese, chips, and ice cream. And whenever I got anxiety, I'd find myself reaching for junk food. Sounds familiar? But here's the thing. Our habits are deeply tied to our identity. I believed I was someone who are easily gaining weight, and that belief was shaping my action. It's like if you think you are a lazy person, you will act like a lazy person. If you think you are bad with money, guess what? You will just keep making poor financial decisions. So the first step is to change your self-perception. Instead of thinking, wow, I'm a person who struggles with weight, I started to think, I'm someone who makes healthy choices. That mindset shift changed everything. I was honestly shocked because when I shifted my thinking, my hunger or craving just vanished. It made me question, can we really trust our feelings? Lesson 2. Goals are temporary, systems are forever. One of the biggest lessons from Atomic Habits is that goals alone won't get you where you want to go. Let's say your goal is to lose 20 pounds in 2025. Once you hit that goal, what happens next? Without a system in place, you might find yourself slipping back into old habits. So instead of focusing on goals, focus on the systems that help you achieve them. Systems are like daily routines and processes that keep you moving in the right direction long after your initial motivation fades. For me, that meant building a system around my eating habits and exercise routines. So I wouldn't just have to rely on willpower alone, which is very unreliable. Lesson 3. Start small, really small. We often make the mistake of trying to change too much, too quickly. We all want a massive change right away. We set big goals like losing 20 pounds, work out 5 times a week, cutting out all junk food, but then burn out. Because the changes feels overwhelming. That's why I emphasize the power of small and incremental changes. I started with one small adjustment. Let's say changing my breakfast, right? Instead of eating carb-heavy processed foods like cinnamon roll, croissant, or even noodles with sauce. Oh my God, that's so good. I began my day with simple eggs and veggie juice, right? Sometimes during my period, I'd have some like a sandwich instead. That's because I get very bad PMS, so I know I need more energy during that time. So you can see, I don't get too strict with myself because I know I can get really cranky. So we have to understand ourselves first, right? This breakfast change wasn't some kind of massive change, but it was something I could stick with, and that's the key. Lesson 4. 7 parts diet, 3 parts exercise. We've all heard the phrase, abs are made in the kitchen. It turns out there's a lot of truth to that. The majority of your progress comes from what you need. I adopt a 7-part diet, 3 parts exercise approach, meaning I put more focus on healthy eating than on exercising excessively. My system was simple. Breakfast at 10 a.m., egg and veggie juice, or a sandwich during my period. Lunch at 4 p.m., a balanced plate with meat, veggies, and rice as unprocessed as possible. No more eating after lunch. So by focusing on mindful eating, I mean eating slowly without distractions, I started to enjoy my meals more and feel fuller, longer. Which brings us to the next lesson, lesson 5, the importance of mindful eating. One of the bad habits that I had to break was eating mindlessly. I used to snack in front of the TV, scrolling through my phone or while walking. The problem is when I wasn't paying attention, I'd easily overeat, then feel guilty afterwards. So mindful eating means sitting down, chewing slowly, and savoring every bite. It sounds simple, but it was a game changer. Now I'm more in tune with my body and I stop eating when I'm full, not when my plate is empty. Lesson 6. Ditch the junk food. We all have those trigger foods, right? Sweets, fried foods, and dairy were mine. Whenever I feel anxious, I'd grab ice cream or chips. And that cycle of emotional eating would leave me feeling worse. So what we should do is identify these triggers and slowly phase them out. I stopped buying snacks like chips and ice cream and instead kept healthier options on hand. Out of sight, out of mind. This is hands down the simplest and most effective way to avoid junk food. Well, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you should quit all snacks once and for all. Instead, you can try cutting out one unhealthy food at a time. Instead of quitting sugar cold turkey, try reducing your intake gradually until it's easier to manage. Lesson 7. You don't have to love exercise, just start moving. Here's something I used to say all the time. Well, I hate exercise. But the truth is, I don't hate it. I just don't love the idea of getting started. I do love how I feel afterward, like sweaty, accomplished, energized, right? So the point is, I don't have to be a fitness enthusiastic. I just have to get started. Instead of forcing myself to hit the gym 5 days a week, I began with small, manageable routines. Like I started with simple indoor strategies 3 times a week and added 30 to 40-minute walks on the weekends. Eventually, I might build up to running. But for now, I'm focusing on the habits of just getting moving. It makes me feel more relaxed and helped me avoid seeing exercise as an enemy right from the start. Speaking of which, lesson 8, don't make exercise a punishment. For me, exercise used to be like a punishment for overeating or being lazy. But we have to look at this differently. Exercise is a reward. It's something that makes me feel strong, feel capable, and in control, right? Instead of using exercise to make up for bad habits, I started using it as a way to celebrate the progress I was making. Lesson 9, habit stacking. One of my favorite concepts from Atomic Habits is habit stacking, linking a new habit to an already established one. I used this technique to build healthier routines. For example, like every time I made my morning juice, I used it as a cue to drink a glass of water first. Over time, drinking water became automatic, and I was already setting myself up for success before I even started my day. Lesson 10, the power of environment. Believe it or not, your environment has a massive impact on your habits. Like if your kitchen is stocked with junk food, guess what? You're going to eat junk food. So one of the first things I did was clean out my pantry and fridge, making sure I only had healthy options readily available. This small trick made sticking to my new habits so much easier. Lesson 11, make your habit obvious. Do you want to know one of the simplest ways to build a new habit? That's make it obvious. The more visible a habit cue is, the more likely you are going to act on it. For example, if you want to work out in the morning, lay out your workout clothes the night before. So when you wake up, there's a visual reminder staring you in the face. This creates a clear signal that triggers the behavior. In my case, I always leave my running shoes by the door, which makes it much easier to grab them and go for a walk without overthinking. This visual cue has become a daily reminder of my commitment to staying active, especially on days when motivation is low. Lesson 12. Make your habits attractive. If you want to build a lasting habit, you need to make it something you look forward to. This might sound impossible when it comes to things like exercise or eating healthy, but here's the trick from Atomic Habits. Pair the habit with something you already enjoy. This concept is called temptation bonding. For example, I love listening to podcasts, but I only allow myself to do it while I'm working out. Now, instead of training exercise, I look forward to it because it's also my time to catch up on my favorite shows. This little hack makes the habit more enjoyable and easier to stick to in the long run. Lesson 13. Making your habits easy. We all know that the easier something is, the more likely we are to do it. So I encourage you to reduce the friction between you and the habits you want to form. For me, that means starting small, like really small. When I wanted to build an exercise habit, I didn't start with an hour-long workout. Instead, I started with just 5 minutes of stretching. By making the habits as easy as possible, I just eliminated the excuse that would stop me from getting started. And once you've begun, it's much easier to keep going. So if you're struggling to build a habit, ask yourself, how can I make it easier? Maybe it's just prepping your meals ahead of time or setting a 2-minute timer to get started. The point is to remove as many barriers as possible. Lesson 14. Make your habits satisfying. Ever notice that how much more motivated you are to do something when there's a reward at the end? Trust me, you are more likely to stick with habits that feel satisfying. That's why tracking progress is powerful. For me, I made a simple habit tracker template to log my workouts, meals, and water intake, etc. Every time I check something off, I get a small sense of accomplishment, and it keeps me going. Seeing the streaks build up is incredibly motivating, and it reinforces the habit in a positive way. So find a way to make your habits satisfying, whether it's tracking your progress, rewarding yourself with something small, or just simply celebrating each one. Lesson 15. Use the 2 minutes rule. One of the most effective lessons from Atomic Habits is the 2 minutes rule. The idea is simple. When starting a new habit, reduce it to a version that takes just 2 minutes to complete. This makes it almost impossible to say no. For instance, instead of committing to a full workout, I started by saying, okay, I will do 2 minutes of stretching. That's enough. But once you are started, you're more likely to keep going because the hardest part is just showing up. This rule helps you build consistency without feeling overwhelmed by the habit itself. Lesson 16 is avoid all or nothing thinking. Have you ever missed a workout or slipped up on your diet and thought, well, I've ruined it now. Why not just give up for the day? This kind of all or nothing thinking can sabotage your progress. Perfection is not the goal. Progress is. It's okay to have an off day or miss a habit. The key is to get back on track as quickly as possible. I used to beat myself up if I missed a workout, but now I remind myself, missing one day won't ruin my progress, but missing 2 or 3 days in a row can create a new unwanted habit. So the next time you slip up, don't stress, just get back to your routine the very next day. Lesson 17, find an accountability partner. It's so much easier to stick to a habit when you're not doing it alone. That's why Atomic Habits highlights the importance of having an accountability partner, like someone who can keep you on track, check in with your progress, and celebrate your wins. For me, I shared my goals with a close friend and we keep each other accountable. We text each other after workouts, check in weekly, and even share recipes when we are both trying to eat healthier. It's a fun and supportive way to stay motivated, especially when things get tough. So if you are serious about building new habits in 2025, find someone who can hold you accountable. You don't have to do it alone. Lesson 18. Celebrate small wins. You don't have to wait for the big milestones to celebrate. Celebrating small wins can be just as important for building momentum. In my journey, I learned to appreciate the small victories, whether it was choosing a healthier meal, completing a short workout, or even just show up when I didn't feel like to. These small wins add up and helped me stay motivated for the long haul. So don't wait until you hit your ultimate goal. Celebrate each step forward. Because progress is progress, no matter how small. Lesson 19. Don't strive for perfection. Just aim to get 1% better every day. One of the most powerful lessons is the idea of getting just 1% better every day. Instead of aiming for perfection, focus on making tiny improvements consistently. Over time, those small changes compound into significant results. This mindset shift has been a game changer for me. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by the idea of massive change, I focus on what I can improve today. Whether it's drinking more water, working a bit longer, or making a healthier meal choice, the goal isn't to be perfect. It's to be better than you were yesterday. You don't have to transform overnight. Just aim to improve a little bit every day and watch how those small changes add up to big results. So there you have it, 90 powerful lessons from Atomic Habits that have completely transformed how I approach my goals. The key takeaway is stop focusing on the goal itself and start building systems that make those goals inevitable. Whether you're looking to get healthier, improve your productivity, or create better routines, these small, consistent changes will help you make 2025 your best year yet. So now I'd love to hear from you. What's one small habit you're going to start working on in 2025? Drop it in the comments below and let's hold each other accountable. Happy New Year and see you next year. Bye!